happened to see this from Neal DeMause, who writes Field of Schemes. We used to be friends until he started to prove that he wasn't interested in the details of stadium financing, and this proves it. For example, he, in this May 8th, 2019 post, mentions me as saying that I gave Dave Cavall, the Oakland A's president, the idea for TIF last year, all right? And then he says, given that the A's owners were talking about TIF-like structures way back in 2006, and Zennie has claimed a lot of things. So Neal has issues with me that cause him to write statements like this without actually checking them out, all right? First of all, Neal mentions 2006, right? But what Neal doesn't realize is simply this. If you happen to go and type in Google redevelopment Zennie here, or redevelopment Abraham Gambit, you'll find the 1996 article, Oakland poses multi-billion-dollar gambit, in the San Francisco Business Times by Daniel Levine. This is about me, singularly, and my idea for using something called phasing in redevelopment right here. Because we were facing a budget deficit, he describes it as a complicated plan created by me, Zennie Abraham, economic advisor to Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris. And it's acknowledged here as a true loophole in redevelopment. My point is, I'm not only a redevelopment expert, I created the Coliseum redevelopment survey area data information for the city of Oakland when I was an intern way back in 1987. That's something that Neal never even bothered to check out or ask, just made his assumptions about, what he thought that I knew and didn't know. I find that people tend to do that, especially if it's somebody black that is the one coming up with the idea. They tend to basically say, or try to figure out some kind of way of explaining away what I do without actually checking into what I do. Neal, it would be a good idea to really check in to what I do and what I come up with, And we've never met. Neal has also never bothered to reach out to confirm anything that he's written about me with respect to stadium financing. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Oh, and Neal proves he doesn't know tax increment financing. For example, he writes here, if we wild-ass-guesstimate, that's just an admission he doesn't know, $1 billion development. And he says the effective property tax rate in Oakland is a little under 1.5% over 30 years in present value. This is not present value, okay? Wrong. That's not how this works. For one thing, you take the cost of the ballpark, which would be $1 billion. It's 45 years at a 4.5% rate of growth in assessed value each year. That's what you'd get. And at $1 billion, you would come in with roughly just over $800 million in tax increment financing revenue at that. But here's the catch. What if it were $2 billion? What if this were $2 billion? And then the throw off would be $1.6 billion over that 45-year period. So Neal needs to do a little, of his own work in building an actual spreadsheet for tax increment financing. Kind of like this. This is my Howard Terminal spreadsheet. As you can see, stadium revenues, naming rights revenues, all of the main consideration areas, PSL tickets, but it goes a giant step further. Yep, that's right, tax increment financing. And I can even include Melrose community investment financing. Here it is. New assessed value from ballpark, and ballpark at $1 billion for new construction around the ballpark, $2 billion. So it gives you the tax from financing district assessed value and its increase over the 4% rate of growth that I mentioned, which is all the way back here. Okay. See that? It's the tax rate. And then construction year. And then there. Construction cost per square foot. Cost per new square foot. Melrose and the existing AV there. And AV growth. Okay. That's at 6% or 0.06 in this test instance, which is the average rate of growth and assessed value for the Jack London Square area. So where does that leave us with TIF revenue under this system? We even have the Alameda County shares and everything else, but where does that leave us? Where is that going to take us? I'll bet you're wondering, where is that going to take us? As we scroll down, this is where it takes us. That's right. 3. Here's the list. Here's the listing, okay? If you want to know where we're at, look at this, okay? The TIF revenue is $3,610,000,000, assuming a 6% rate of growth on assessed value. All right. And what I've calculated here is the amount of that revenue that could be used for a bond, or $1.8 billion. All right. And that's the A's infrastructure cost payback. All right. And so that's what's remaining. We take this, subtract that, and we get this. Okay. So that's how you do TIF math in the Oakland parlance, Neal. I don't believe in sloppy math, Neal. Net present value calculations are used only to express in current dollars what the total value of a projected income stream is. A number of people make the mistake of using present value and saying, well, that is your actual revenue for a bond. It is not. For example, when Neal presented his net present value calculation, he didn't consider at all assessed value rate of growth over either a 30-year period or 45-year period. What you have to do is use the doubling formula for tax increment financing. It has its own formula. And then determine what that total amount is. Now, if you want to express it in current dollars to people, then you use net present value. That's only to explain it to people who aren't familiar with tax increment financing revenue, or how that revenue is supposed to match the year-to-year bond cost that a redevelopment organization is going to have to face. And something else Neal didn't do is also read the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District legislation and also SB 293 Skinner. To cut to the chase, they allow for the use of that tax increment to fund everything from not just affordable housing, but Head Start programs, and also programs to assist businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic, including those that have been robbed on multiple occasions in Oakland. A very serious problem. Subscribe to Zennie62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com.